Today we're going to take a look at the steps to take to complete our sample project. We want to do a hem, and I've given you directions in the project packet to do a blind stitch hem. To do one on my machine, I got out my blind hem foot, and all of them look fairly similar to this. I got out my instruction book and turned to page 38 for blind stitch hemming. And then what you need to do is pay attention to the fold process. That's the big thing. Fold over and press a 1/2 inch, and then press your 1 inch hem, and here's the tricky fold. You fold back the garment part, like so. Then what you do is you stitch along the fold, and it catches the garment. It looks like this on the wrong side and like that on the right side, and I did it with a contrast thread so that you could see it. On our sample, I hope you can see the hem right there. Catches a little bit of the stitch, and on the wrong side, on the inside of the garment, it looks like that. There are other ways to complete your hem. You could turn it up and stitch it by hand using a slip stitch, which would be invisible and very neat. If it's a narrow hem, you can do that narrow hem like we did on the sleeve. There's an accompanying video with today's lesson to look at the blind stitch using a Bernina attachment similar to the ones that we use in lab. Now, the next thing we need to do is attach the facing to the zipper area. So I folded back the facing and I attached it by hand on each side of the zipper. On one side I did a whip stitch using small stitches, even stitches. I used a matching thread so it doesn't show very much. I hid my knots at the beginning and end, and I kept it neat. On the other side, to show you, I did a slip stitch, which is basically invisible. Once again, I used matching thread, hid my stitches, and kept it neat. After you get the zipper facing stitched down, you have the armhole facing and the neckline facing. You could slip stitch it or whip stitch it, or you could do what we call a little tack stitch, and you'll notice I tacked together the armhole and the neckline facing right there, that little stitch that holds the two of them together. Small even stitches in the same spot. Once again, matching thread, keeping it neat, and hiding your knots. I did that on the other side of the neckline facing. There's one other method that you can use using your machine, and you may see here that I have some threads sticking up, and I left those threads to show you. I would trim them. I wouldn't leave them in the finished garment. This is called Stitch in the Ditch, and there is a line of stitching right along here. The garment seam and the facing seam match, and I stitched right along that seam line to hold the facing together, so that's attached there too. So those are the methods that we use to finish up our garment and keep our facings from flipping out of their spots, and to finish up the zipper and to hem the garment. And our sample is now finished.